The ad campaign. It was for underarm deodorant or antiperspirant. I don't remember which one. But they made a big deal out of the fact that a lot of people go into a moment and it stresses them out. A little bit of anxiety inducing. Let me ask you this question. Are you out of your league or just not prepared yet for where you're headed next? That's the topic of today's Leading Leaders. Stay tuned.
Think storytelling's just for bedtime? Nah, it's the secret sauce for business magic. Stuck in a rut with bland pitches and yawning clients? Enter Boost Your Business with StoryPower. 6 weeks of epic storytelling training. It's like leveling up in a video game but for your career. Master the art of narrative and watch connections blossom like a viral TikTok. Simple, impactful, and game-changing. Ready to transform your biz vibes? Dive in now and make storytelling your superpower.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at StoryPowerAcademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. Over the last year or so, we've really upped our investment in our relationships and our business. We've looked for new opportunities, new networking events, not just the circles around us, which we continue to invest in and participate in every way that we can, but looking for those circles that honestly, they're a bit of a reach, they're a bit of a stretch. They're not circles that we've been in before. They're not marketplaces that we're well known. That's always a little bit fear-inducing, if you will. The minute you step into an arena you've never played in before, you've never fought in before, so to speak. I remember watching the old reruns, because I didn't see it when it initially happened. But when Pride Fighting then moved into the UFC, there was a strange transition. Back in the day, a lot of the guys in that arena, they fought looking like WWE. They had on their tight shorts and sometimes their wrestling boots and no shirts. And then suddenly this Brazilian guy shows up and he's wearing his full pajamas. I mean, his gi. Full gi, belt, and the whole 9 yards. Royce Gracie comes out of nowhere. Guys are in the ring with him. They're throwing punches. They're throwing kicks. They believe they are ready. They are strikers. They can take a blow. They're ready for anything. And after the fourth or fifth hit lands on Royce Gracie's face, he's like, I'm done with this nonsense. Grabs the corner of his gi, wraps it around the neck of the guy that he's in the ring with, puts him on the ground and chokes him out. And people went, what just happened? And in an instant, his strategy, his defense mechanisms, his training kicked in and literally changed the rules of the game. He was tapping people out in seconds sometimes. And nobody knew what to do with them. There were a lot of people who were like, I'm a big power striker. I can take a hit. You can't get me on the ground. And they'd walk out of the ring going, what just happened to me? That's kind of what happened to me last night. I stepped out of my realm. I told the people who invited me, I don't do poker. I've never played a full hand of poker in my life. Not for jelly beans, not for dollars, not for car titles, never. Never played a full, I played some blackjack for like cereal. Never played for serious. Just for cereal, not for serious. And I sat down at a table where I have to be honest, I paid my buy-in like everybody else. I got my chips like everybody else. And I knew when I sat down, that was an investment. I didn't have any anticipation at all of winning. I told the people, I got my cheat sheet right here in the pocket so I can figure out what a good hand is. I would have only known it if all those cards were in front of me and I could look at the cards and I could measure what, and I was not ready. I was not even close to ready. I hadn't done enough homework. I wasn't prepared for the circle. Here's what I know in the end of the day. If you've ever paid to play for marketing, if you've ever bought an exhibit booth, a banner, a sign, an ad to put on the side of your car, an ad in a phone book, You've invested your money in an opportunity to put your business name in front of other people. Now, a lot of people, and I'm sure there were some because I saw them with their stacks of chips. Let me correct that. They didn't have stacks of their chips. They had stacks of everybody else's chips because they started with the same amount of chips as everybody. And when they left, some people had no chips and some people had like piles of chips. So they left with stacks of other people's chips. Wealth transfer is another way to say that. But I have to look at it and say, I'm willing to admit that I put my money on the table to join the game, not for the sake of the game. I put my money on the table to invest in the relationships around the table. Handed out a healthy stack of business cards, had some great conversations, some great revelations as well. Now, if I were to say, I'm now a poker player, I'm going to go compete in poker, I'd be a fool. That's what I would be. Have I played around a poker with a bunch of wealthy people? I have. Did I lose my shirt very quickly? I did. I also got my ego poked because I sat down at a table where I knew, first thing you got to know about gamblers, they're never going to tell you the truth. I don't care how nice they are. They're in it to win. They want to win. And if they think they can get one up on you, they're going to do it. So I told them, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, this game is not a familiar thing to me. And several people at the table said, that's fine. We'll walk you through it. These are all guys of faith, or they claim to be guys of faith. They're all nice guys. They're all business owners. They're all very wealthy, very successful. That's great. And about halfway through the game, we let a guy join the table. And he sat down with a full stack. And at one point he looked at me and he said, honestly, how many chips you got left? Because that's what I'm going to bet. It was literally at that point just me and him left in the hand. I had a queen and a king. And all the cards on the table were just numbers. I had no idea what he had, but honestly, I was a little offended because he looked at me with his full stack of chips, and I got like $20 left. And he's like, I'll bet whatever you have. He was forcing me to go all in. He forced my hand. And because I didn't have a strong enough understanding of what was on the table versus what was in my hand versus what was his potential, I did an ego move. I folded and I walked to another table and donated my chips to somebody else's cause. I refused to let him have my chips. I refused to let him win that way. Oh, he's going to win the hand anyway, right? I guess. I don't know. Maybe he's bluffing. Maybe he's got the best hand in the world. There's no chance that I'll beat him. In the end, I asked him, I'm out. I'm walking away. I'm going to give my money to somebody else, but I'd love to see your cards so that I would know. He flipped his cards over. It was still Greek to me. I had no idea, looking at his cards and what was on the table, what kind of a hand he had. The guy next to me flips my cards over and goes, dude, you had a straight flush. You had the entire table. The pot would have been 100% yours. You ever lost because you didn't know what you didn't know? That would be it. Now, I still have to be honest and say, there were a couple of things in my mind that were, in my heart, more important than whether or not I walked away with a stack of chips. Been talking all this week about how the internal story that's happening in your business, it's coming from the lips of your team. It comes from the mindset of the leader. It's called a brand. And I had a chance to build relationship with people that normally I wouldn't have just walked up to and said, hey, let me tell you about me. Or, hey, this is the business that we're offering. Or this is the sale that we have. Or this is the special for the week. But in the conversation over Texas Hold'em, I explained a little bit about what I do as I was listening to everybody else explain what they do. Like a typical network meeting, only you don't get 2 minutes, now you got a couple of hours. And I had a guy ask me for a card and then straight up ask, what would you charge me to train 50 people? And I know the number wasn't a challenge to him. Oh, I've worked in those arenas where I tell them, I can do it for as low as, and they're like, oh, that's so much. Do you have a scholarship? Can you do it for half? And can I do some work for you so that I don't have to pay? What does that tell me? They don't really value what I do. This guy's like, I know what it's worth. Tell me what your price is. I didn't pay to play poker so that I could give away my money to a poker shark. I paid to be in an arena, just like when you pay for VIP to go to an event, just like when you pay to buy advertising. But what was more important to me than whether I walked away with a stack of chips or not, was that I walk away with relationships where the people that I met had a genuine impression of me and what I have to offer. You can't put money on that. See, I met a lot of people at this event. I met people who do a very similar thing to what I do. Many people would look at both of us and go, you guys do exactly the same thing, so now I just have to pick between price and personality. There's no chance that we do exactly the same thing. We do similar things. There are a lot of people who do similar things to what we do at StoryPower, but nobody does exactly the same. That's why we exist. It's not competition. It's an opportunity to level everybody up. And I'm perfectly okay with that. What I'm not cool with is the people that I met who, the minute you start a conversation with them, they're already looking down their nose at you. They've already decided you don't have the kind of wealth I have. I can tell by your shoes. I also had a conversation with a guy who said there was a season of my life, not too long ago, where $50,000 a month was my average. And I honestly looked at people and went, how can you even live on less than $300,000 a year? And then pride went before the fall, and I lost everything. I nearly lost my family, and I nearly lost my life. There's a season when in running your business and building relationships, you've got to figure out what it means to be authentically you. And the stories that you tell in your head, in the mirror, in the media, man, they got to come to this level of consistency, of authenticity. Because without authenticity, there is no truth. And without truth, there is no trust. If you want people to trust you as a business owner, as a leader of any sort, I don't care if you're in ministry or mud pies. If people don't trust you, they won't do business with you long. And the lack of trust, that little bit of deception, that twisting the truth just to get the deal, those side deals you don't tell anybody about just because, well, you know, they're going to make me money, but I don't want anybody else to know I'm doing that. Those kind of things will always come to light. And it may not be you that tells it, but somebody who's done business with you, who's seen you cut corners, who's seen you kind of sleight the hand, they will tell. I had a conversation with one person who said, yeah, I've got this big thing coming up. It's a big deal, and it's about 95% done. I'm like, cool. He said, yeah, I didn't hire the attorneys. I used AI, and I'm doing it all myself. I've got a couple of clients who are attorneys, and I mean like Pepperdine Graduate Universities. These are not schmucks. These are not schlubs. They know the game. They're ready to play at the highest level. And when I asked them about AI, in fact, I asked another one just last night, I said, so you're in this field, you move a whole lot of money, you manage money for people who have a whole lot of money. How do you feel about AI? He said, I double check everything AI does. It's a great research assistant. I don't have to pay an intern to go look up these past case histories. But I never trust the conclusion that it comes to. I always verify that myself. And I never submit the documents that it creates. I do that myself. And yet I know there are people who are fully determined that if I just push the button, if I ask the right question and I get the right answers, I can trust what comes out of there, and it's going to be more brilliant than 100 people because it has access to all this data. Yes, it does. And as we were having this conversation, me and this one particular person, they said, well, I take it you don't like AI. I said, I don't dislike AI. It's a great tool. Just understand it's a tool. It's just a tool. If you trust it to be a staff person, I'm afraid you could be in trouble because AI will say things about you to the world that you can't back up. I mentioned that I work with a lot of political clients and a lot of people who are highly educated. I said I have one particular political client that after we really started digging into the truth of their stories, they decided this world of politics is not for me, and they stepped out. I had another client who decided to hire a publishing company to ghostwrite their book. They submitted all their content, they got back some sample chapters, and in chapter 2, I'm reading through it, and I'm like, that is a brilliant story. It's perfectly crafted, just the right level of emotion, the right storyline. Everything seems to come together really, really well. Let me ask you a question. I said, you were in this city, you were sitting on the bench and you were looking at the water. Was that opening between the library and the Capitol building? Is that where you were sitting? And my client kind of sheepishly replied, yeah, I've never been there. Oh, fascinating. So you're telling a story to build credibility of how you know the secrets that you know. And the story you're telling to build credibility, i.e., to garner trust, is fabricated. And yet, at the end of the sequence, at the end of the book, if I scan the QR code, you're asking me to invest $25,000 in the service that you offer. That's a bit of a problem. See, when you've got borrowed stories, recycled stories, anecdotes from somebody else. I mean, I often will share stuff from books. I've done it this series and just in this last week, stuff from Patrick Lencioni and stuff from John Maxwell, stuff from the 5 Languages of Appreciation. I'm slipping my mind right now who wrote that one, but maybe it'll come to me. I've searched stuff from their books, and when I do, I hold up the book so you can see the cover. This is not me. These are ideas that I agree with. These are ideas that I share. These are ideas perhaps even that shaped me. But what I'm not going to do is make up a story or let AI make up a story that I can't back up. If you hear me say something and you feel like I'm making it up or I'm stealing it from somebody else, call me on it. Honestly, call me on it. Either I'm going to explain it to you or I'm going to say, oh, you know what? Maybe I did remember that wrong. Maybe I do need to give credit to somebody else for that. And I'm totally okay with that. In a conversation between Jordan Peterson and Simon Sinek, I heard Simon say this phrase. I thought it was powerful, it was beautiful, it was authentic, it was intelligently structured. He said, I have very strong opinions, loosely held. And I thought, that kind of defines almost every argument that I've ever been in. Here's what I mean by that. There are a lot of times that it's your opinion against mine. It's not what I've studied and what you've studied. It's the expression of the experiences that I've had and what I've learned from them. And when I express those things, I have to understand, ego aside, this is through my own myopic learning. Maybe my experience was tainted by my own foolishness. Maybe my experience was tainted by my own past, my own trauma, my own mistakes. And so I come to this moment and I experience the same thing you experienced, and I read it differently. And if that's the case, and I formulated opinions that I'm now vehemently behind, I stand strong on this opinion, and yet something is revealed to me to say, yeah, but you took it wrong. You heard it wrong. You heard it through the filter of something else. And now your opinion, while you may hold on to it very strongly, very loudly, very passionately, your opinion is ill-informed. It's wrong. That's the moment that strong opinions, loosely held, is of value. It's when you can step back and go, perhaps I've been wrong about that. Let me reconsider my position. Let me change my opinion. If we could get more people who just grow up enough to do that, we would have a better world. We would have a better world of politics. We would have a better world of business. We would be better all the way around if people would let go of their hard-held opinions, because those opinions actually inform their belief system, and those belief systems inform their behavior, and that behavior becomes the story they tell, and now the opinion and the story are shaping their entire world. And when you hire them, all that comes with them. And then all of a sudden, they run headlong into your opinions, which might be wrong as well, and maybe they need to be changed. But see, when you start using stories that are not your own, anecdotes that are not your own, you miss the punchline, you miss the point. You heard it a certain way, and you took it that way, and you thought, I'm going to run with this. It can very quickly destroy your brand. I feel confident that even in the moment that my ego was poked, even in the moment that I got a little bit riled up, even in the moment that I felt like I'm not going to let you win, even though I actually won, but I had already bowed out, so I couldn't win. I'm not going to let you win. I would rather give my chips to a stranger than to let you win them. Even in that moment, my higher priority than walking away with a pile of chips was to be consistent with who I told everybody at that table I was when I sat down. To be consistent with the two people who invited me to be there, the two other people that trusted them to say, yeah, he's good in this environment, he's going to be fine. And the two or three people that I ran into from other circles. And I'm like, I wouldn't have expected you to be here, but I'm glad to see you. There were at least half a dozen people who know me by name, recognize me on the street, and they'd be like, I know who that guy is. And if I acted a fool, if I let my ego get too big, and I didn't guard my brand, my reputation, what other people say about me when I walk out of the room, then it wouldn't have mattered if I put down $2, $200, $2,000, $20,000. It wouldn't matter what I put on the table. It would have cost me more to damage my brand. Now, I know a lot of people that go to an event like that and they have a few too many beers. I don't think I saw one last night. I heard someone mention one. I don't think I saw him. Most people were drinking water or tea. It was that kind of event. The truth that you can have a couple too many and make a fool of yourself doesn't stop that night. It's like a DOI. It follows you for decades. It's on your record. It never goes away. And when you damage your brand in a moment of foolishness because your ego is there and other people start telling stories about you, let me tell you something. AI cannot overcome a brand damaged by foolishness. The best marketing pieces in the world will not fix an arrogant leader. Or you can put the slogans out there, you can put the logos out there, you can offer to pay people when you show up late. All that's great. But if the service they receive when they work with you is not good, all the marketing in the world doesn't matter. There are people that I know who spend oodles and gobs of money on getting attention. But if you ask about doing business with them, there's as much negative as there is positive. In fact, many of them who operate that way spend a whole lot of money trying to recreate a positive image. In fact, I've heard them say, if you invest enough in the positive image, even the negative press is to your benefit. You just have to drown out the naysayers by spending more money on the positive. Just market, 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 get awareness, get awareness, get awareness, and you're going to overcome all that stuff. And in the world of short-term memories, that's true. In the world of brand reputation, not so much. And there will be a point, a tipping point, where the stories that you've told about yourself and the stories that everybody else tell about you, they don't line up. When you're using fake stories and fake anecdotes and you're making things up just for the purpose of attention, What you've done is created your brand to be one of those things built on the type of awareness that's the equivalent of a clown on a unicycle. Or you got their attention for the moment. But how long can you stay on that unicycle? There was a season in our life that we operated these kids events. And one of the things that I used to do to advertise these kids events was I would put on a giant inflatable clown suit. And when I had this suit on, I looked like I was 600 pounds. And I would put that clown suit on with the uniform shirt of our kids event, and I would walk around town and hand out flyers and coupons to get kids to come to our event. It was a successful business for its season. It did really, really well. And we had a great relationship with a lot of the kids. Go back and watch yesterday's episode. You'll hear a little bit more about why we did what we did. But on a particular day that I wore my clown suit, I was out. I went to the Parks and Rec. I was hanging out there, hanging out around the pool. A lot of the kids that were there were coming to the event that night. And so we were having some banter, et cetera, et cetera. And I decided to be funny and climb up on the high dive in my clown suit. I apparently forgot for that moment. I was so hyped up in my own look, the whole world is looking at the clown on the diving board. Everybody knew who I was. Everybody knew who the clown was. They knew it was me and that we were doing this kids event later. And I was so wrapped up in that the high school physics lessons slipped past me. If it holds air, it holds water, because those molecules are bigger. And I jumped off the high dive into 13 feet of water, and I sank like a rock to the bottom. And the longer I was there, the more filled with water my suit became. I don't know if you know this or not, but regular old water weighs 8.33 pounds per gallon. I can only imagine if it's 600 pounds of size, what the volume of water was inside that suit. I can tell you this. I opened my eyes and I looked up through the water and I saw a young lady sitting on the lifeguard stand looking down at me and laughing at the clown at the bottom of the pool, unaware that I'm now too heavy to get back to the top. And my first thought was, if she jumps in here, we're both going to drown, because she can't pick me up. There's no way. And so I went about the business of swimming myself to the top, kicking as hard as I could, pulling with both arms. By the time I got to the surface, my deltoids were burning like I'd been doing military press for hours. I got to the top, got off the edge of the pool. People are still laughing, and I'm thinking to myself, they would have been laughing while I drowned, because they had no idea that what they saw and what was really happening were not the same thing. When I learned to play pool, I played with an old man in my apartment complex when I was in college. And this old guy used to beat me like a stick. I mean, it was just embarrassing. I didn't know how to hold a cue. I didn't know the difference between 8-ball and 9-ball. I didn't know what a scratch was. When he started talking about all these other kinds of rules and different games and different leagues, I was way in over my head. But in 2002, I competed in the World Championship, well, at least the U.S. Championship in Las Vegas. And I placed in the top 25%. Because I learned to play the rules of the game. I built an understanding through repetition and practice. I mastered the craft. There are only two things in the world that I've ever considered myself world competition qualified in: public speaking and pool. And I have trophies to prove my value. No, let me say that again. Not to prove my value, because my value has nothing to do with that. To prove my skill set. I have trophies to prove my skill set in both of those arenas. You know how many trophies I got for poker? 0. I was in over my head. I was way out of my league. Now, is it that I'm not capable of playing that game? No, I am. My mind thinks that way. I have that strategy. I do know this, though. I would have to switch from nice guy to mean guy to be good at it. And I'm not sure that's the brand I want to live up to. So I may continue to give my money away just to be in that circle, just to have conversations with people, just so I can influence them, because I did meet people who are living financially successful and still struggling with some strategies that I can help them with. And I would love to do that. And if I have to pay to sit at that table, to be in that arena, that's as good as buying another box of business cards. Are you in over your head? Are you out of your league? Or just not yet prepared for the game that you're walking into? Are you using somebody else's story, somebody else's brand? Is there confusion in your brand because you're trying to play somebody else's game and it's not you? Are you letting somebody else write your brand stories because you're not paying attention to them at all? If any of those things are challenging you, I'm challenging you to get deeper into your stories. Why do you do what you do? What caused you to start this? Is there a moment in your life that you look back and go, that's when I decided this is my calling? Those stories, those authentic stories, those stories build trust. Those stories tell the truth. Those stories will make you a lot of money and build deeper relationships with the people you serve. And if you don't know this or not, I'm going to give you this little golden nugget. It's always cheaper to get more money from an existing client than it is to go get a new client. If you have to market because every time you're starting over a relationship, that's a brand problem. It's a true story. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. There is a retreat coming up that I want you to know about. It's called the StoryPower Academy Retreat. This StoryPower Retreat is about focusing on your communication skills, taking them to the next level. Discover, develop, draft, deploy, and deliver some of the best stories you've ever learned. You're going to listen, create, connect, relax, and reflect around this beautiful lake scene in Granbury, Texas. It's a chance to rejuvenate and refresh and start over with some of the best training you can possibly imagine around storytelling, leadership, and communication. Join us, get away, and
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at StoryPowerAcademy.com.